Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. So, hunting. Is hunting allowed in Islam? Is it ever not allowed? If you're in the state of ihram, hunting is not allowed. And if you are in the vicinity of the Masjid al-Haram, then over there hunting is not allowed as well. Over there, this is a sanctuary. So hunting means chasing and killing an animal, a wild animal that cannot be caught easily for slaughtering. So you would not hunt a cow, for example. You would not hunt a sheep because these are animals that can easily be caught and they can be properly slaughtered. Hunting is only done with those animals that cannot be caught. For example, it's impossible or next to impossible to catch a deer and try to slaughter it because it's a wild animal. Same thing goes with other such animals that are, for example, zebras and things of that sort. So hunting for food is lawful, except for those who are in the state of ihram. If you're in the state of ihram, you cannot even hunt for food. Now, there are a couple of rules of hunting. Number one is that if you manage to catch the animal alive, so for example, if you shot an animal with a bow and arrow, or with an arrow or with a bullet, and the animal maybe did not die, but it became injured, and you were able to get to it, at that time you're supposed to slaughter it with Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Bismillah is the minimum, Allahu Akbar is the sunnah. And whenever you are hunting, you are supposed to release your weapon, whether it's an arrow or bullet, you're supposed to shoot it with Bismillah. And there's another way of hunting, which is to use animals for hunting. So some people, they use, for example, trained dogs. Some people use these birds, falcon, eagle type hawks and stuff, falcons, and they use them for hunting. So the Prophet ﷺ said that when you release your animal, you release them with Bismillah. And the animal must be a trained animal. And they said that a trained animal means that this dog that you have trained, this dog will not hunt for itself, it will hunt for its owner. When it catches a prey, it will not eat it, but rather it will grab it. It might bite it. It might even kill it, but it will not eat it until the owner comes and gives it to him to eat it. This is essentially a trained dog. And of course, this is something which is mentioned in the Quran, which is that your trained dog it's allowed for you to do so. That's why some of the scholars who say that dogs are allowed, they actually use this as a reason. They say because, look, Allah has allowed a dog to be used for hunting. But that's a different issue. We're not going into that today. Now, it also means that the hunter, in order for this meat to be halal, the hunter must also meet the conditions of the person who is a slaughterer. Remember, we talked about last week who can do a halal slaughter. Can a non-Muslim do a halal slaughter? And when I say non-Muslim, I mean like mushrik. Okay, there's an exception for Christians and Jews. We discussed that issue last week. We're not going back into that today. But those conditions that we discussed last week as to who the person who is going to be slaughtering, those conditions must also be met by the hunter in order for the meat to be halal. So one of those conditions was that the person must be sane and legally competent. So if a insane person shoots something, it will not be considered halal. If a person who lost their senses, they hunted something, that meat would not be halal. It must meet all the same conditions as the other matter. Now, the tools of hunting Number one, they must be, whatever tool is being used, you must be released by tasmiyah, by saying Bismillah. It says taymiyah, but tasmiyah. The tool must be a tool that kills by piercing or cutting by a sharpness. It cannot be a tooth or a fingernail. Who would use a tooth or a fingernail? Can you think of an example? What is that? So the Prophet ﷺ said that you cannot kill an animal with a tooth or a nail. So some of the scholars, they said that it means that the person himself, na'udhu billah, like if a person was so vicious, he grabbed an animal and started biting him and killed him by biting, this would not be a halal slaughter. If he kind of like started scratching him and like ripped him apart, na'udhu billah, may Allah protect us from such vicious and merciless behavior, this animal would not be halal. Some scholars said that this only applies to the tooth and the nail of the person who is doing it. Others said no, it applies to all. Meaning, for example, elephant has tusks. So if you got a tusk and you were to sharpen it and make a knife out of it, the other scholar said, because this is a tooth, you're not allowed to use this because the Prophet said don't do that. Okay, so just stay out of it, stick with metal. That would be easy, or stone. This tool must kill by the sharpness and the cutting and the piercing, but not by weight. It must not kill by weight. So if someone managed to trap a deer, okay, and now they say, okay, how can we make it halal? So they see a big rock, and they say, you know what, let me pick up this big rock and smash the deer because I don't have anything to kill him with. This would not be halal, okay? And from that, they say that even, for example, if someone was to pick up some pebbles and hit an animal with it, this would also not be halal, because this is basically considered a type of violent blow, meaning hitting or somebody has na'udhu billah, a bat or a stick, and they use that to hit the animal until it kills them. All of this is forms where the animal would not be halal, whether you're hunting or you're just doing your domestic goat. All of these, of course, they are inhumane, they are very painful, and they would also not be, of course, that might be the wisdom why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this to be non-halal. Now, the next issue is hunting or fishing for fun. Okay, so do you think that it's allowed to hunt or fish for fun? For sport? To collect a trophy that I have a big bear head and a skin. People do this. So, of course, any animal that we do not eat, we're not supposed to kill it. We're only supposed to kill an animal in order to make use of it. Eat it, use the skin for clothing, or basically use as much of it as possible and not kill for fun. So that's the general rule. You can eat it yourself, or you can give it to other people as gift. You can hunt and say, you know what, the meat that I'm going to get, I don't eat this meat, but this meat is halal. I'm going to have it cooked and I will serve it to poor people in my town. No problem, you can do that. But to kill and just leave the animal over there because you wanted to, na'udhu billah, enjoy the act of killing, this is something which is not becoming of a believer. For a believer, taking a life is not something that should be done easily. It should be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this a ruh, a soul, and we should not, even tree, for example, even the ground, we should not just, say, oh, well, who cares? Let me just do whatever I want to do. So you can, yes. So an injured animal, if it's slaughtered before it dies, then it can become halal if the animal is halal in the first place, like halal to eat. Okay. Yes. So if you catch up to it and you can see it's injured, but you cannot get close to it because it's dangerous. In this case, uh, because you did shoot it with Bismillah, then the animal would be halal if it dies as a result of the injury that you caused it. You should shoot it again. Okay, not you could. You should shoot it again in order to give it a quick death and end the pain. But even if you could not do that, let's say the animal went somewhere and you couldn't find it, and it died from an injury because the shot was off, then it would still be halal. It would still be halal. All right. So with regards to shooting, hunting for fun, sport, thrill, all of this is considered, the standard fatwa is that it is disliked. Yes. Yes, you can hunt it to eat it. Yes. To eat it is allowed. To give it to others to eat it is allowed. To even sell it is allowed. But to just kill an animal and just for fun, like killing it and saying, oh, I had fun shooting stuff, this is what's not allowed. Even wild animals, bears, hippos, things that we don't eat, even those things we're not allowed to kill just for fun. Even pigs, we're not allowed to say, okay, let me just go and shoot around every pig that I come across. Dogs, we're not allowed to just go and kill. The Prophet ﷺ said that the dogs are a nation. If they were not a nation, I would have ordered all of them to be killed. But he ordered a mad dog to be killed. So what would we call like rabies, right? So if anything is dangerous. Now, let's look at this slide and they will cover all of these issues. So eat, give to others or sell to others, all of that is permissible, but just killing for fun, this is something which is not allowed. There are people who go, for example, to Africa and they will pay $15,000 or $20,000 as a licensing fee to be able to go and kill a lion. And if you remember, there was a famous case some years back that there was a famous lion, and this man from America went and he paid this fee, and they did not get attacked by this lion, but actually what they did is that they tied up meat on the back of their truck and dragged it around his area to draw him out. And when he came out, he shot him and killed him and took pictures with him. So this is basically what we call, killing for fun, killing for sport. And this is not allowed. Now, if you happen to be traveling through the desert, through the forest, and a lion attacks you, of course, you're allowed to protect yourself. Even in America, for example, if you even go to Alaska, where there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of bears probably, you are not allowed to kill a bear unless it threatens you. And even then before you're supposed to use other methods like bear spray. You're supposed to, get proper training to try to de-escalate how to deal with a bear. If none of that works, you can kill it, but you still have to go and answer, and they could actually press charges on you because they say that you were in their territory as opposed to them being in your territory. And you might have been doing stuff to kind of provoke a bear because you wanted to kill a bear. People are like that. So you have to really go and explain yourself, and they better believe you. If they don't believe you, they can press charges on you, and it could be a serious allegation on you. Now, the Prophet ﷺ said, do not take any living being as a target. So you are trying to target practice, and you say, okay, let's shoot rats, or let's shoot lizards, or let's shoot snakes, or anything like that. If it's not harming you, you're not supposed to even use it as a target. Even if you are actually killing it, don't use it for target practice, but rather let an experienced person come and just shoot and kill him, as opposed to saying, okay, we're going to practice. Maybe somebody will get his leg, maybe somebody will get his ear, maybe somebody will get his eye, but not actually kill him in a quick and painless death. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever kills a sparrow unlawfully will be questioned about it. Okay, and this is essentially the case of a person who kills a sparrow just because he wanted to kill it, not because he wanted to eat it. Okay? It was narrated that the Prophet ﷺ forbade hunting except for food or to make use of the animal. Harmful animals can be killed, but not in a painful way. They should be killed in the least painful way possible. And the Prophet ﷺ said that there are 5 pests that may be killed whether one is in ihram or not. So these 5, and in one narration a 6th one is added. These are things which they come into your space and they can be harmful and dangerous. So what are they? Rats, scorpions, crows, kites. Kite is a bird, a hawk-like bird. Mad dogs. And the 6th one, which is mentioned in another narration, is snakes. So if they come in your space, you are allowed to kill them. Okay? But even then, when you kill them, you don't kill them in a torturous way. You don't kill them in a painful way, but rather the quickest, simplest way to get rid of them is what you are supposed to do. Licensed animal population control regulated by authorities. Do you think that's allowed or not allowed? So, for example, there is a farmer, and he says, look, I have 50 acres of land, and there are 200 wild pigs that are living on my land. And they are very destructive to the crops. So what they do is that they actually get permission and they allow a hunter to come on their land and kill them. So the hunter goes there, sets up their thing in the trees or whatever, sets up some sort of food trap where they will come, and then they basically kill them. Same thing, they do this with coyotes. In Florida, they have a invasive species of the Burmese python, which is the snake, which is destroying the Everglades ecosystem. So over there, they have allowed killing, but if you kill a Burmese python, you're supposed to take a part of it to an office and tell them, look, I killed 3 Burmese pythons. So they will register that because they know how many is normal and how many are beyond normal. So once they have enough reports that, okay, we have normalized the population, they will say, okay, no more killing of Burmese pythons, okay? Now, this is allowed if it's regulated and licensed by authorities of that place, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, because essentially that is done in New Jersey, for example, every few years or every 10 years, they collect the bear population of New Jersey. And if the bear population has overgrown, then they basically allow 1 week of hunting bears. But each bear you kill, you have to go and register in the office, and they are keeping track. So let's say there were 500 over extra bears. As soon as they hit the number 500, they will send a regulation to everybody who's out hunting saying, no more killing bears. Okay, we have reached our number, that's it. So that's, if somebody really wanted to hunt for fun, that would be basically the thing where it should not be just pure fun, but rather some benefit, which is to control the population. Because remember, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that Allah has established a mizan, a balance. Okay? Everything has been revealed, everything has been created in a fixed amount that Allah knows. Now, if that amount starts to fluctuate because of things that we do, so if we mess with something, we eat a certain amount of fish too much, the fish that eats this will die. And the fish that this fish eats will become overpopulated. And it will mess up the mizan. And it can mess up the entire ecosystem as a result of that. So we are supposed to try to maintain that mizan, that balance, in order to continue the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has naturally created this system. So that goes for, so what would you say about fishing for fun? So what is fishing for fun? Catch and release. Okay? Catch and release. Now, the thing about catch and release is that there are sometimes you're trying to catch to eat. But the rule says that if your fish is not longer than this amount, this size, you're not allowed to keep it. You have to throw it back in because it's a baby right now. Okay, they say this size or bigger, you can eat it, you can take it, but this size or smaller, you have to throw it back. Okay, and sometimes they will come and they will check, and if they find that you have less than the required, the allowed size, you will get ticket for it. Okay, so to fish just for fun, if you think about what is it that we're doing, if we're not intending to eat anything at all, not even the proper size, to fish, it's basically kind of like you're throwing a hook that this fish is going to bite, and that hook is going to do what? Rip into its jaw. And with this, you will be able to reel the fish back in. Okay? Then you're like, oh, I caught a fish. I feel really good about myself. And you take the hook out and you throw the fish back in. What do you think about this? Don't do it, right? Now, if you're going to catch a fish, you caught it, it's allowed, the proper size, keep it and give it to somebody else who will eat it, okay? But don't, this idea of torturing anything, any living being, is something that the believer should be careful not to do. Stay away from that. Wallahu alam.